Video series on conditioning in general, but I suppose in the last few days I've been asked, I put a few things on Twitter and I've been asked a lot of questions about 5Ks, and it's become, I wouldn't say an issue, but certainly a topic of conversation amongst coaches, but amongst field sport athletes, GA players, hurlers, rugby players, soccer players, which is the most, and hockey, basketball, predominantly played sports in Ireland, but really this is for anywhere. Going to start off, I'd intended doing a series on conditioning anyway, but this has come front and centre, so people have asked me, and it's very hard to describe these things in a Twitter thread or whatever the case may be. So hopefully I'll add a little bit more context with these videos, but really briefly to start with, in this first video, we have to start with conditioning principles. Every coach will have their own. These are ever evolving for me. But one that is, the reason it's number one really, I suppose, is program everything all the time. So when I coach a team, and this goes actually for skills, conditioning, gameplay, tactics, everything, right? Because some of my roles involve football or hurling coaching, or a hybrid of S&C and field coaching, or sometimes only the field coach, or sometimes I'm only the S&C coach. And program everything all the time. So from a conditioning point of view, really I think everything's conditioning, to be honest, right? We're conditioning ourselves mentally, physically, tactically, technically to get ready for performing in competitive competition, okay? So program everything all the time. That doesn't mean we do huge amounts of everything all the time. What that means is that we may be maintaining, we may be developing, we may be stimulating different modalities of conditioning, right? So technical work, speed endurance, aerobic capacity, aerobic power, lactic repeats, lactic power, lactic aerobic training, which is something I'll talk about down the road, which I do quite a fair bit of, and is quite suitable in the shutdown as well, and something people can work on. So program everything all the time. We might do a lot more aerobic capacity at the start of the season, okay? We're going to do general preparation work. We'll do a lot more conditioning and general preparation work at the start of the season as opposed to football, even though again I would be doing all the skills, creating scenarios where we're in hurling, hooking, blocking, shooting, tackling, rucking, whatever, to develop everything, but it would just be far less than we would maybe be doing within a month of championship, for instance. Layer up, that really makes sense, but so many people don't do it, particularly people on their own. When people train themselves, and this kind of goes back to the 5K scenario, when people train themselves, they go from hero to zero, or from zero to hero, way too quickly. And I've been told privately of guys getting injured, my own clients, athletes, teams, guys that come to me. I felt I went out and tried to do 5K under 20 minutes, and while they didn't necessarily have an acute injury, they felt really, really sore, or the last K was incredibly difficult, or whatever the case may be. Like anything, jumping in trying to beat your mate's record, well, it's just stupid, right? To be very blunt about it. And I don't know when we're getting out of this thing. I think within a month we'll be doing small group sessions of some sort, 4 to 6 weeks. But ultimately, for the long term, you know, from a conditioning point of view, you're working off yourself. Genetically who you are, your training history, your recent history, probably up to 6 to 12 weeks, 3 months, what you've been doing recently, how much detraining you've had in the last month, have you just stopped, you know, all these things are important. If you're coming from, let's say, rugby, hurling, soccer, they're very particular sports, very particular movements, and very particular movement patterns, right? Lots of changes of direction, lots of physical contact. You know, your movement patterns by repeating 5K runs will change. Your hip structure will change. The length of your hamstrings will probably change. Your ability to accelerate multiple times. will probably be reduced. Now, I'm not saying 5Ks are a no-no, but a volume of them is probably a waste of time at best, right? And there's other ways, more specific ways to get and stay fit and to stay closer to what you will need when we do come back to playing sport. So there's a specific to general continuum and or scale, and a 5K run, it's fine. I would encourage it almost with certain athletes. Once a week, you're getting out in nature, right? That's a big thing that people are missing. But really the big thing is to keep to once a week, once every fortnight. But even at that, I would be looking at interval 1K runs, interval 2K runs, and again, going back to layering it up, okay? And, you know, guys might think, or girls for that matter, that, you know, I can do 5K and certainly can, right? But is it worth it? Like, what are you getting out of it? That's what I would ask. A little bit more thought, a little bit more help from people like me, and there's hardly a club in Ireland now that doesn't have an S&C resource of some sort. Just reach out to them, okay? There is ways around it. The final part is individualised in teams that can be not hard, but takes a bit of work. A little bit complex, but you can do it as much as makes sense, okay? Obviously, they'll have to do a lot of training the same, but I mean, I use tempo runs a lot. That's fairly straightforward. They pretty much all do the same thing. They'll be doing it at different paces. And we do specific training. I build programs now because I use some GPS, and I'm finding that really good. And what that is that I'm taking the GPS from a match and using the stats from the way they play to determine the training they do. So I'm trying to make them better for who they genetically are, training history, all that black, and the sport they're playing. So I'm not trying to make a cornerback who does 5.5K in a game an 8.5K midfielder, right? There's no need for it. I might be playing with his physical makeup. I might be asking him to do too much. Now there's general training, and again, when we go back down to the specific training, that's really specific, okay? So if a guy playing in the middle eight of a football team is doing, you know, a couple of K and a half or something like that of high speed running, which is over 17.5 Ks an hour, I want him to get to do more than, right? Based on what he's doing in a match already. We want to improve match fitness. So I think what this is even more specific. And that's real individualizing. That took a while because I'm an individual, self-employed. It's not a big organization. I'm only GPSing 3 guys at a time, but it has been worth it. And over a number of matches, the teams I work with, I've got the data now on them actually playing the match, okay? Which is far better. We're putting the program into the players rather than trying to get the players to fit into a program, okay? There is a limit to that because I can't do 25 or 30 different individual running sessions. But what I'll do in a very general sense is block them, you know, fast guys, endurance guys, aerobic guys, or whatever the case may be. Depends on the profile of your team, really. Usually 3 groups, right? And they can do a certain amount of individual training then. So that's it. For now, we'll go more into the 5Ks in the next one, right? But that was basically around the conditioning principles, and I hope that has laid a foundation and get some thoughts and some ideas as to where I'm coming from and why they're not bad 5K runs, but the reasons why you can do other things, and also if it's the only thing available to you, I will give the best practice around going out doing runs, all right, and avoid the big thing that unfortunately an awful lot of people doing. They feel good, they feel fit even, the fittest people, they just run out the door. And the final thing is these videos are really aimed at field sport, court sport athletes, right? I'm not talking to guys who grew up in athletic clubs. I'm not talking to endurance athletes. I'm not talking to guys who've, at least at a recreation level, been running for a long time. They do warm-ups and they found what works for them. Sometimes they're the people who react most negatively to this. I'm not talking to you. You come from a different background, you have a different history, your bodies are different, you like running, you've been coached to run. Running may be even easier for you. Your limb lengths, nice long legs, whatever the case may be, lighter bodies. Gaelic footballers, hurlers, rugby players, different shapes. Different pressure on the knees, ankles, hips. It's a different volume. And I suppose I just want to really decipher that. There is things we can learn from endurance running. And as I always say to people, and I've actually done this just as a thought experiment, I've got good athletes, Australian rules players, to run beside an actual 1500 metre runner, the fittest of Australian rules players, and I've done it with GA players as well in the past. And it only takes 30 metres and you go, oh my God, they're so different. So it's very important that we compare like with like. Someone who's been coached to run, I mean, those who go on and play GA, who've been in athletics clubs, I mean, they stick out like a sore thumb. Now, it has improved, and there's much better athleticism and running style at the higher levels. And if you look at the Dublin team since 2011, particularly, after that, I would say probably, I don't know when Brian Cullen took over there, but it seems to be reasonably in line with that. Slowly but surely, biomechanically, and looking at old games recently, it's phenomenal. Even good runners like James McCarthy is a much better runner now in 2019, 2020 than he was 5-6 years ago. They have slowly layered up their conditioning, but also their technical movement and their general movement has improved over a period of time. Okay, so that's it for this.